First of all, you've got to agree an idea. And the idea for Goodnight Sweetheart, seeing that's really why we're here, came about quite a long time before anything was done about it. The idea that a man travels back in time and travels back to a love affair whilst married in the present day. And we let that mull for a while. So the idea, that as vague as it was there. We then started to develop the idea. Then you ask the question, okay, there's got to be lots of questions why this won't work. Let's ask those. And then once we're convinced that it, A, has legs, that it can run for a long time, we're not writing a one-off play, who are the people? Who is this man? Who is this man that can walk back in time? And why can he walk back in time? And that was developed over that time that we were planning the first episode. It just so happened that the first episode, when it was ready to write, we were both in the process of moving home from London to the country. And so we had to take a temporary office in a halfway point, which happened to be Beaconsfield. I would drive from here, not here, but this part of the world to Beaconsfield every morning, and Maurice would drive from Crouch End in North London to Beaconsfield. And there we rented a room for, I think, a month or something. I don't know.
I think it was a month.
And there we wrote the first episode of Goodnight Sweetheart. Some of the names of the characters came from the people we met around the coffee machine. I remember a woman coming up to me and saying, "Hello, I'm Mrs. Deadman. I'm the office manager, and if there's anything you need, please call me." We came back to our little room and said, "Well, Reg, the policeman should be called, please see Deadman." And then she also said, these are the two writers. I don't know whether you met Phoebe. She worked on...
I don't remember Phoebe, but I'll take your word for it. I think Phoebe was named after an auntie of mine. But either way...
Have you got an auntie Phoebe?
No. No, I did have a distant auntie Phoebe.
No, there was a Phoebe that worked there.
I think that...
I don't know where it was.
But going back to how that show was created, what I thought Laurence was going to say was that we were writing a drama series called Love Hurts, and we were just mulling over a scene. We knew it was going to be set in the East End. The two characters are going to meet in the East End and go somewhere for lunch. And Laurence said in a strange, mystic way, do you know there's streets 2 or 3 turnings back from Whitechapel Road where nothing has changed since the Blitz? And I said, that's a series.
I didn't think it. I didn't.
As I said it, I think I said it instantly.
Yes.
Similarly, when I, a couple of years before, had said to Laurence, I saw these 2 women in this restaurant in Kensington where we went for Christmas dinner, and they were really overdressed. I think they were gangsters' moles. And he said, that's Linda and Pauline. So one of the great unbargained for benefits of having a partner is you can recognize when each other's had an idea. But what happened was, when you say, okay, here's a guy who goes back to the past, the least important question is how.
Yeah.
We're not going to get into that because we're not writing quantum leap.
No.
And the more you try to explain it, the worse it gets. So we're not going to explain it. He goes back to the past. What sort of guy is he? He's a guy who is dissatisfied in the present. He's got to be dissatisfied in the present, because why would that particular dangerous past entice him? What entices him? Well, it's always sex, isn't it? Let's be honest. Or at least love. No, it's respect. He has no respect in the present. He has respect in the past. How does he have respect in the past? He knows stuff, partly. He can get stuff. But it was only in the course of writing it, I think Laurence will agree, I hope he does, but it was only when Gary sat at the piano and started playing your song that we realized we'd opened a whole gold mine of musical comedy, that was the one thing that we hadn't literally pre-planned. But
I remember when we were sitting in the room in Beaconsfield and we got to that day and we said, well, he's come in, he wants to connect with her, and and I said, as there would be in a 30s club, a piano. He sits down at the piano. Neither of us said, what's he going to play?
But it wasn't some.
But we just said, what if he played an Elton John song? No one would know.
But it wasn't much that. It was when she said, that's a nice song. Did you learn it in Hollywood? And he said, yes. Well, actually, I wrote it. Now, I don't think either of us, obviously this is sort of mumbo jumbo. You don't formulate the idea.
You're to say the story.
But that be good now. You don't formulate the idea, oh, why doesn't Gary say I wrote it? As far as you're concerned, Gary says I wrote it, and you just write it down. And when the character says something and you just write it down, then you know something special is happening. And the same thing happened with Birds of a Feather. You just write down what they say. And so the other big breakthrough was we wanted to know more about the Blitz. So we went to the Blitz Museum, which is by the London Dungeon, and it was still there or not. Very good museum. If it is, I recommend it. And in the gift shop, which everyone knows is the best part of the museum, we found a 2-volume work called The Blitz Then and Now, which we were just looking at the other day. I wanted to know what it had cost. What was it, $79? But 2 volumes in 1993. It's a lot of money. But this had every single air raid. And then one of us says, I claim it was me, but it might be Laurence. Well, Gary would buy that book. So now I went to go. So now Gary can go back and forth safely because he knows when it's not safe. But as soon as he gets emotionally involved, then he has to take risks. And so if you've got a sound idea, then because it's logical, you are really excavating the logic of it. You're not making it up because it could be no other way.